Before I get into today's tutorial, I just want to preface this by saying that my hair looks really greasy and dirty because it is really greasy and dirty. I think I'm going on like day 5 of not washing my hair and I just haven't felt compelled to. I've been wearing it up a lot, I've been using some dry shampoo and just being generally lazy. So I have a lot of work trips happening next week. I'm leaving in the morning and I feel like when I travel for work, I have to wash my hair like every day. I'm not one of those people that when I truly like need to be on and want my hair to look good, can just sleep on it pretty. My hair's naturally wavy, borderline curly, so it gets like just a weird texture. Even if I shower with a shower cap, like that humidity just does something to it and it is not cute. So yeah, since I'm gonna be washing my hair a bunch this week, I thought I'd just give it a little rest. So let's just move past this situation and focus on the makeup today. Today's look, I wanted to do a matte eye look. I know I've been incorporating shimmers in my last, few tutorials, and I usually on a daily basis do incorporate shimmers on the lid, but I thought it would be cool to show you guys an all matte look, using some of the cool browns in the palette and just how you can really still create a dramatic look and make it look, appropriate for date night or nighttime, but also daytime, but without using shimmers. So yeah, that's gonna be the look today. I am gonna do my full face since I know when I just do the eyes, sometimes you guys request to see every step. So I thought I would just do that for you today since I have to get ready anyway. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm first going to hydrate my lips with my L'Occitane Shea Butter. My lips have been so dry and I think I figured out what the problem is. At night when I'm doing my skincare, sometimes if I'm like kind of in a hurry and it's really late, I'm not the most precise about where I place it. So like my Drunk Elephant Framboos Glycolic Serum, that's like a pretty heavy acid serum, but I think what I'm doing is I'm just spreading it too haphazardly and it's getting on my lips because I noticed as soon as I put it on last night, it kind of like made my lips burn and it made me think, oh my god, I think I'm probably putting this on my lips every night when I'm like slathering it all over my face. So I'm gonna try to avoid my lips when putting on acid products or like AHAs and see if that helps because they have been so dry, you guys, like more than normal and I don't really know why. So we'll see if that helps my situation. But first I'm gonna go with foundation and I have a new bottle here because I lost my other one. I have no idea, I went in my drawer. It's probably one of those things where I was using my foundation and then like got up to like grab my phone or something and left it in the most random place and then like a month from now I'll find it in the fridge or something bizarre. But yeah, so I'm gonna go in with Arizona. So I just have some on the back of my hand and I'm just gonna take the rest that I have on my finger from spreading it on my hand. And I'm just gonna take my damp beauty sponge and start to pounce that on the skin. So I've had like the craziest week because I am moving into a new place in LA because I split time between San Diego and LA. And you know how you always tell yourself in your mind like moving's not gonna be that big of a deal. There's not that much to do. I don't have that much stuff. I don't need that much stuff. No. So I was expecting oh, it'll just take me a day. The next morning I woke up for breakfast and realized I don't have spoons. I don't have a bowl. I Instacarted all my food, but it was just all these little things. You forget how much we consume on a daily basis, whether it's tools, I needed scissors, I needed a pen, little things. So I've had to make some pretty big lists and stock up because it's not like I'm moving out of my current house, so I'm sort of starting fresh. So that was a lot of fun, but I'm thinking about setting up a filming space up there so that when I'm up there I can still film videos. So if you guys would be interested in it'd be a pretty similar setup. It'd be bedroom style. I don't have a huge studio space in that new place, but if you want to see videos from my LA place so that will help me probably be a little bit more consistent, let me know and I can see if I can get a little setup going there. But I'm really excited about it and I just need to get through all the work involved with getting everything set up. Okay, so now that we have our foundation on, the skin's just looking really fresh and glowy, and you could just leave it if you don't want to go in with concealer, if you want a lighter finish and not as many products, but I'm gonna go in with concealer, and the one that I'm using is something that I'm working on, so I cannot link it down below, but you'll know more about it soon enough. And I'm just going to put that sort of in the T-zone area, down the center of my nose, my chin, sort of around my nose where I've got some redness, and then of course under the eyes. I'm also going to take it on the eyelids to use it as a primer. Okay, and then in the meantime, I also want to contour using concealer today. So I'm going to go in with the same concealer but in a different color, a deeper shade. I've done this a lot with the Heat foundation that you guys have seen me do. So it's the same concept, but I'm just doing this with concealer now. And I like to go in pretty light. I don't do like a full thing. I just want to go in with a pretty small amount. You can always add more, but it's harder to take it away. And I'm going to just kind of go. Okay, so now we're going to blend out everything. And I'm going to start with the contour. Okay, so now that we have that blended out, I'm gonna set everything in place using powder. And I really love, you guys know, I really love using cream products for contour. Whether it's a darker shade of foundation, a darker shade of concealer, even if you go over it later with powder to reinforce it, I really just love the way that it melts into the skin a lot better than powders do. And it just really gives that beautiful, naturally sculpted look that is so subtle. And it's not like such a deliberate contour. And I just feel like it really resonates with me. Like the type of makeup I like to do is obviously on the heavier side. I do a lot of smoky eyes, but with the skin, I always really like it to look very natural. I think that's why I've always preferred a dewier finish versus a matte finish. So yeah, if you haven't tried it and you're kind of intimidated because it can look a little freaky going in with such a dark shade and trying to blend it out, and you never know like if it's gonna completely ruin your makeup when you're first starting out and you're not familiar with that technique, but it just gives this beautiful luminosity to the skin and just makes everything blend together so well that you can't tell that you've obviously contoured, bronzed, concealed, highlighted. It just looks like your skin. I'm gonna pat out any creases that may have occurred. And I'm gonna set the under eyes with brightening powder. This just has a little bit of a peachy pink undertone to it, so that really helps counteract the blue in shadows. And I love using this under my eyes specifically because I feel like I just really appreciate that extra brightness in there. So see how that just really helps brighten that area even further after you've concealed? Sorry, let me turn my phone on silent. My husband keeps texting me because we're apart. He's in Aspen right now. He asked me if I was filming because he knows that like I get very uncomfortable and upset when I'm bothered when I'm filming. Because one, it's embarrassing, but two, if he's not home and I'm filming, I'm like, bro, stop texting me. I told you I'm filming. So I can tell he's like a little bit nervous. It's very sweet. But okay, anyway, so now that we've brightened the under eyes, I'm gonna also set the under eyes. I'm also gonna work out any creases here. My eyelids. And then I'm also gonna set the center of my face using my classic powder. And I like to press it in with a damp sponge because I feel like powders just look so much less powdery when they're pressed versus brushed. I feel like brushing just kind of places them over the skin, whereas a sponge, especially a little bit of dampness, just helps the powder melt, which to me is one of the biggest issues people have with powders, is that they find it looks cakey or that it looks dry. Especially more mature women, powders can definitely accentuate lines. So try this if you haven't tried this technique, because it really does help the powder not look powdery. And then what I'm gonna do is take the butt or the end of the beauty blender, whatever you wanna call it, and put some more powder on there and lightly set the rest of my face. Okay, so I just like it so that my skin's not tacky, so that when I go in with bronzer and blush and all those things, it doesn't stick to a tacky base. But I don't use a ton of powder. I like to just make sure that everything is set. So now that we've done that, I'm gonna go and put a little bit of a shadow shield using powder as well. underneath my eyes, just so that if we have any fallout, we can dust it away. And then we'll get into the eyes, and then we'll go back and finish the skin. So I'm gonna use the One today, the One eyeshadow palette. And I think I'm gonna play with a lot of these cooler toned browns in the camel area. The shade Complicated, Play Cool. And I wanna try to keep this pretty simple just because I don't wanna use so many shadows for this particular look, so that you can use it as a quick everyday kind of look if you're in a hurry, or if you just don't have a lot of time in the morning, or if you're transitioning between day and night and have like 10 minutes. I just wanna make this look pretty accessible. So the first shade I'm gonna go in with is First Base, as usual, just to blank out my lids and give all the shadows a clean canvas to lay on top of. Okay, and then now that we've kind of laid down that base, the next shade I'm gonna go into is Complicated, which is this camel shade right here. It's sort of like this mustardy brown. It is such a gorgeous shade. This might be one of my, if not my favorite shade in the palette. I just find it to be so beautiful. And I've always loved these kind of shades, which is very weird because it's not inherently like a cute color, but it just looks so good on the eyes. And I'm just gonna go straight in with that. And that's normally a little bit darker than a transition I would go for, but I'll show you what we're gonna do to really blow it out and smoke it out. So I'm just gonna take on the brush, tap off the excess, and just start lightly going in with circular and windshield wiper motions. And this is going to be more of a blown out look. I want this to be a little bit messier and just effortless. I don't want this to be super precise. And don't worry about getting anything on your lid either, because we're gonna cover up the lid. And what we're also gonna do with this shade, right now we're using a big fluffy brush. So when you're doing eyeshadows, you're gonna get the most blendability and the sheerest coverage when you use a big fluffy brush. Then the denser and more packed you go, and smaller and more precise the size, and the more bristles there are, you're going to get more intensity and payoff out of your shadows. So when you want something to be a little bit lighter, like right now when we're using a little bit of a darker shade as a transition, you would want to use a brush like this. Then when we want to intensify it, we'll go in with a smaller, more densely packed brush. And it's amazing how switching up your brushes and using the same shadows can make that shadow look like a different shadow. I'm a huge fan of doing like one shadow eye looks and using different brushes to make the intensity, you know, sheer in the crease, really deep on the outer V, light on the lid. I just feel like you can do so much with one shadow and just change out your brushes and your pressure and make it look so much more intricate than it really was. So now that we've built that color up in the crease, I'm gonna go in with a smaller brush, and this is gonna be the way that we intensify that shadow. And it's a similar shape, it's just smaller and more dense, so it's really gonna deposit more product. So I'm going back in with that same Complicated shade. And I'm just really focusing that on this outer corner and then working it in. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so you could, if you wanted to just do a one eyeshadow look for every day, this is the color I use the most on a daily basis when I'm doing looks like that. You could just leave it right here. But we're gonna go ahead and cover the lid, and we're gonna go in with some deeper shades. So to do this, I'm gonna use an even smaller, more densely packed brush. A lot of times with dark mattes, you really have to build up the color and use a dense brush so that they don't get that sheer see-through effect that a lot of mattes can have. You definitely want that opacity. Let me find a good packing brush. So a brush like this, you can see, it's more of a flat brush, but it's not a straight flat brush that you'd use with like a shimmer. This still has some fluffiness to it, but it's definitely flatter and more dense. And I'm gonna go in with this shade here called Play Cool. And this is a dark, cool toned brown, which is different than like a warm brown. So it's got a little bit more of that gray charcoal undertone, and I think it's gonna be really beautiful with this camel shade. And when you're doing this, you don't really want to swipe because you're going to remove the intensity. You sort of want to pack it on. And then don't worry about blending it yet. We'll get there, blending it up into the crease. Right now, you just want to really deposit that color down. And by the way, this brush is a NARS 50 brush. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing on the other eye. So this looks obviously a little bit choppy in some areas, so we're gonna blend out the edges. I just wanna explain though, I'm a huge advocate of blending and I'm all about blending out harsh lines, but when you're doing something like this, where you've got a dark color on the lid and it's a matte so it doesn't stick and have the oil content the way that shimmers do, you wanna be very careful not to blend into this shade. You just wanna blend the edges because you will remove the intensity. Mattes just don't have the hold that shimmers do. So you definitely don't wanna blend away the darkness, which is really easy. I'm sure you guys have experienced that when you're working with a dark shadow. And even sometimes if it's too pigmented, you can place a dark shadow and then if you try to go back over it, which is why I said to press, not swipe, you can almost remove the shadow you've already laid down. I've experienced this with a couple of the Anastasia palettes where I'll put that dark shade Cypress Umber on my lid, and then if I try to go back over it, it's like I lift and remove the shadow I placed. So with shades like this, or looks like this, you definitely want to just be mindful of the blending and understand how to work with mattes on the lid when you're using a dark color that you want to retain that pigment, because they do blend away really easily. So now we're going to go back in with Complicated on that smaller dense brush, and I'm just going to start to blend out those edges. Being careful to avoid going on to the lid. I'm just keeping my blend super precise. And as you can see, I'm bringing that shade in here. I'm going for that deep set kind of like grungy smoky eye today. I'm not really going for that light, bright inner corner. I really want it to be deep and sort of hollow. Okay, so I'm really loving this. I'm not gonna go really much further. There's a little bit more blending I actually wanna do right in here. And then what I can do now also is go back with that brush and a little bit more of that Play Cool shade. And instead of doing it packing flat, kind of take it on its side a little bit, just to also really marry it with Complicated in the crease, but not blend it away. Okay, I'm really happy with where we are right now, so I'm gonna stop there with the eyeshadow. And I'm gonna go in and highlight my inner corner. So to do that, I'm gonna go with just a matte shade today. We're gonna keep this look entirely matte, so I'm just gonna take a little brush and go in back with that first base shade. And just bring a little bit of that into the inner corner here. And I'm also gonna bring it up onto the brow bone. And this is a great time if you had blended too far up to clean any of that shadow up. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do our eyeliner. And I'm just gonna go in with this Kat Von D tattoo liner, just liquid liner pen. And I'm just gonna do a thin line on the upper lash line. I'm not gonna wing this out. This is sort of a more grungy look. It's not really a glam look. And I've been loving this liner because it's a brush tip. It's not a felt tip, so it's actual like brush. And I just find it's really easy to apply. So I've been loving this. It's kind of like a new fave. Okay, and then per usual, because you guys know I hate leaving just like a straight line, I'm gonna go in and smoke that out. So I'm gonna take my little Bobbi Brown eyeliner brush, and I'm gonna go in with a little bit of this plunge black shade mixed with Play Cool. I don't want it to be so black, but I definitely want it to be pretty intense up near the lash line. I'm just gonna wiggle that to kind of diffuse that line. And mixing the black with the Play Cool shade will just kind of help it go straight into the shadow with no clear line of when it starts or stops. Okay, so now we're gonna wipe away this fallout, and to do that, I'm going to take this Smashbox this angled powder brush and just a little bit of the brightening powder still left in my cap. I'm just gonna sweep it all away. Okay, so now we're gonna work on the lower lash line, and I'm gonna go in with my Sigma. I've used it so much so the name's not on here, but it's their flat definer brush. I will find it and link it for you down below. But I'm gonna take that Play Cool shade, and I'm just gonna wiggle that across my lower lash line. Okay, now we're gonna go in and smoke that out, and I'm gonna go in with this little Morphe M507 brush, and I'm gonna take Play Cool mixed with Complicated. And then I'm gonna go in with an even bigger brush, which is that little brush we went into the crease with Complicated. Take a little bit more Complicated and even further smoke that out. So this is very blown out on the lower lash line. If that intimidates you, some people don't like dragging their eyeshadow down, skip it. Do whatever the heck you want. That's another thing I want to say, like anytime you guys are watching my tutorials or anyone's tutorials, don't feel like you have to follow them exactly or do exactly what I'm doing or your favorite YouTuber's doing. Make it your own, because we all have our own preferences with makeup, and I know like it kind of bugs me sometimes when people get critical and tell me like, oh, I wish you would do less eye makeup, or I wish you would do this and that. It's like, you can do whatever you want with your makeup, but that's the makeup I like and how I feel the best. And so I want you guys to all feel that way when you're watching tutorials, and know that like, you're doing this to feel good, and every day when you sit down to do your makeup, you can be inspired and pull inspiration to help you get creative and come up with a good look, but you can totally make it your own. You don't have to follow steps exactly, and you don't have to feel bad if you like doing your makeup a different way. It's fine. Makeup's supposed to be very individual. Okay, so now that we've got that done, I'm gonna line the lower waterline. So I feel like whenever I do a matte eye like this that's dark all over the lid without a lot of light, it's really important to make sure that the eyes don't get lost. And I find that lining the waterline really helps put that black right up against the white of your eye and makes the eyes pop, so that they don't just kind of get swallowed up in the darkness. So let me find my liner. I'm gonna use this Urban Decay 24/7 waterline in the shade Legend. Which is just a black shade. I'm gonna line my lower waterline and my upper waterline. Again, with the cute face. Okay, so now that we have that done, we obviously need to do the rest of the face, because right now it's just like eyes, which is not the cutest look. So let's go ahead and finish up the skin. I definitely want to bronze up. So I'm gonna use this Hourglass Ambient Lighting Bronzer in Luminous Bronze Light. And this is not an overly golden warm bronzer, which I typically always go for a super warm bronzer. This is a little bit more neutral, and I think it'll just be good with this look because the eyes are a little bit more cool, and it will really just complement the color scheme we've got going on. So I'm gonna take this Bobbi Brown bronzer brush, and I'm just going to bronze the perimeter of my face. Oh, I love bronzer so much. It just brings so much life back to the face, and I would say it's one of my favorite makeup steps, because I just feel like once I've got my bronzer on, after doing the eyes and everything, and then you go in with your bronzer, it's like, oh, now it's all coming together. So, okay, let's do blush. So I'm gonna use sort of a more neutral blush. I don't wanna go for anything too pinky or too peachy, just because the eyes are kind of this like grungy, cool toned look. So I wanna go more nude. I've got these two here that I'm gonna mix. They're both by Becca. This is Songbird, which is a little bit more peach, and Wild Honey, which is just a straight up nude. And I'm gonna mix those together and just blush my cheeks. Blush is like that too. Blush and bronzer, I feel like when you just kind of go in, especially because when you do your foundation and concealer and powder, the face can look flat. Then you do the eyes and it's like, whoa, just eyes and flat skin. Then you go in and like warm everything up and bring color and life back, and it's like, oh, now it's all tying together. Like, this is what I was setting out to do. It all makes sense again. I like sometimes bringing my blush on the bridge of my nose right here because it kind of gives it that bit of like a sunburned look, but in a flattering way. It looks natural in my opinion. Okay, so now let's highlight. And I'm going to be using something I can't talk about yet, but any highlighter that you like will do. This is definitely like a go-to shade for me. It's just like a standard champagne goldy shade. I really don't like icy highlights on my skin tone. I'm just so warm and olive that they like really do look like an apparent stripe. So I have to go in with something with a little bit of warmth. But if you are fairer, this eye look would look great with a cooler tone blush. I'm just gonna take that on this is actually an eyeshadow brush. It's the MAC 240S. I've been loving this for highlight, like loving. I'm just gonna put that on my cheekbones. I'm also gonna take it down the center of my nose, the tip of my nose, my Rudolph highlight, and my Cupid's bow. I'm really tempted to do my inner tear duct after I went ahead and highlighted with a matte shade. I think I'm gonna do that, yes. You can never have too much highlight. Okay, I'm just gonna take this little Sigma brush. I don't know what it's called. I think it's probably for doing crease work, but I'm just going to use this to pop the highlight right there. Okay, now let's do the brows. I'm gonna use my Anastasia Brow Wiz, although I'm so annoyed, you guys, because this is a brand new one I just bought. I had run out and I like ran to Sephora, but I'm like so annoyed because it's in here, like it twists up, but it comes out. Like it's not fully connected. Like it must have broken off like really far down in there. So, I mean, I was gonna return it, but like I got home and I didn't really have time and like I needed the pencil, so now I guess I'm just keeping it like this. So like I'll do them and then turn it over to the spoolie and the whole thing comes out. Anastasia, how dare you. So I'm gonna brush up my brows and then I'll probably just speed through this just so that you can still see what I'm doing, but it takes me like 2 minutes to do my brows. Okay, so now that we're done with the brows, I'm gonna go ahead and set them using my Hourglass Arch Fiber Gel in the shade Warm Brunette. I really like this because it adds like some extra texture to the brows. It doesn't just like cement them down, it actually like makes them look fluffier, which I find to be very nice. If you're someone that like doesn't have a ton of time in the morning, or if you go to the gym and stuff and don't really want to wear makeup but you want to do something, gels like this that have a tint to them but also like the fibers in them, I think Benefit Gimme Brow is one like that too. They do just add some extra like texture and bushiness to the brows, and it looks like you kind of filled them in, but you obviously don't have to spend the time doing it. So I love these for that kind of like quick on the go makeup look. Okay, so now we'll do the lashes, and I'm actually not going to do falsies today. I feel like when you have such a deep smoky kind of like eye where you've put a dark color all over the lid, you don't necessarily need lashes because you've already got that depth there. And I also just don't feel like putting lashes on today, so I'm not going to. I'm gonna curl them, and I'm gonna go in with my Marc Jacobs Velvet Noir Major Volume Mascara. I really like this. I find it to be really volumizing. It doesn't, you know, take a lot of effort to get off at the end of the day, but it also doesn't smear or flake on me during the day, so I love that. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but I got a little bit of mascara on my upper lid when I was looking up to do my lower lashes. So whenever this happens, the last thing you want to do, even though you're so compelled to just go like wipe it or fix it, let it dry. I'm telling you, if you let it fully dry, and then just take your little spoolie from your, any sort of like product with a spoolie. I just use my eyebrow brush and just flake it off. It'll fall right off and you won't disturb your eyeshadow. But if you go in while it's still wet and try to remove it, you will smear. You're gonna have to take a makeup wipe, remove it, and like your eyeshadow's all patchy. So I'm telling you, just fight the urge and wait for it to dry and come back to it later when it's dry. Okay, so now I wanna do my lips, and I'm gonna go ahead and line them, and I'm gonna mix two liners. These Makeup Forever Artist Color pencils, this one is in Endless Cacao. It's definitely like a cool tone, very gray, kind of like stone colored liner, which I think is gonna be a little too cool, but I want it to be cool. And then I've got this one, Anywhere Caffeine, which is a little bit warmer. This is the cap, so you can see the color. So here, I'll compare them for you. So see, Endless Cacao is just like a very cool toned gray, stony brown, and this one's a little bit warmer. So I'm gonna go in first with Endless Cacao, and then if I feel like it's too cool, I'm gonna go over it with Anywhere Caffeine to mix it together. Okay, so that's very cool. That's even cooler than I thought it was going to be. So let's go over it with Anywhere Caffeine. Okay, wow, so that Endless Cacao was like gray, which is fine. I actually think it's gonna be really good with this look. And then once we kind of go over it. So I'm gonna go over and mix George and Cameron together. I love George because it's sort of like a mid-tone neutral taupey nude. It's not warm, but it's not too cool either. So it's really wearable on basically anybody. And then Cameron is that light pale nude that'll just add that pop in the center, but it's very cool toned as well. And while I let that dry for a second before going in with Cameron, I'm going to remove my mascara transfer. So I'll show you guys. It's right here. Very lightly flick it. See, comes right off. And then if you want to, you can just go back over with your blending brush and just buff out anything. Here you go. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with Cameron over George. Okay guys, so this is the completed look. I hope that you enjoyed it. I had so much fun doing an all matte eye look because it really reminds me how much having a dark shadow in a matte all over the lid can really add that depth and dimension and just make the eyes look so much deeper than having a light shimmer shade on the lid, which is what I do most days. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope that it inspired you to try it for yourself. And yeah, I think that's it for me today. So let me know what you guys want to see in future videos. I really love all of your feedback and just hearing what kind of looks you want to see. One, because it gets me out of my comfort zone and forces me to think about doing things that I wouldn't have thought about otherwise. And two, because I really do want to create content that you guys want to see, and that's why I'm here and why I'm doing this. It's really fun for me. So I hope that you're having a great day wherever you are, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.